coral bleaching will effectively sign the death certificate for the world's largest living wonder. Ecologist Professor Lesley Hughes is a member of the Independent Climate Council, and she joins us now from Newcastle. What do you see as the most startling finding of this latest research by the Climate Council?
Well, the Climate Council report released today summarises a lot of research from a lot of different people, actually. But one of the most startling findings is that back in the 1980s, the sort of conditions that would lead to severe coral bleaching were occurring about once every 27 years on average. They're now occurring about once every 6 years on average. And looking ahead, if we don't rapidly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, we'd be predicting that those sorts of conditions could occur every second year by about the mid-2030s, which would in fact sign the death warrant of the reef.
Now, this is largely the result of increased marine heat waves. What causes marine heat waves?
Well, the oceans are heating up. They're actually absorbing over 90% of the extra heat in the Earth's climate system that is being produced due to the enhanced greenhouse effect, which in turn comes from the burning of fossil fuels. So just as our air temperatures are warming up, so are our oceans.
Is it too late to save the reef?
No, it's not. The reef is not dead. There are pockets of good coral left, especially in the south, which did not suffer the catastrophic bleaching events in 2016 and 2017. But the middle and northern sections of the reef have been very badly affected, and in the north in particular, about 75% of the coral has been badly bleached, and we've lost about a third of the coral altogether.
And for those thinking that perhaps the reef might be rejuvenated, we might get back to where we were, once coral is bleached, can it be returned to its former natural glory?
Well, what this report points out is that some of the research is saying that some of these impacts are now irreversible. What we need between bleaching events is a sufficiently long period of time for the remaining coral to reproduce and to repopulate the reef. And the problem is we are now getting bleaching events too frequently for that recovery to take place. So 2016 and 2017 on the reef, we got back-to-back catastrophic bleaching events, which we've never seen before. And that just doesn't allow enough time for recovery.
You say that more needs to be done to cut greenhouse gas emissions. Is the Australian government doing enough by signing up to a 26% greenhouse gas emission reduction by 2030?
No, they're not. The government target is very weak. When the target was being formulated, the government's own advisory body, the Climate Change Authority, said that we needed to reduce emissions by between 45 and 65% to do our fair share internationally. The target of the Australian government is one of the lowest, and in fact the lowest of all OECD countries. And in fact we're not heading towards that target either, even though it's woefully inadequate. Since March 2015, Australian emissions have been going up, not down.
And as somebody deeply involved in this area, Lesley Hughes, what do you think when you hear politicians like Tony Abbott saying Australia should withdraw altogether from the Paris Agreement?
Well, I think somebody should ask Tony Abbott if he's willing to sign the death certificate of the world's largest living wonder. I think we should also ask him whether he's willing to find the $6 billion from somewhere else that the reef currently brings into the Australian economy. And perhaps he should also talk to any one of the 64,000 people whose job relies on having a healthy reef.
Ecologist Lesley Hughes, thank you so much for joining us on News Breakfast this morning.
Thank you.
Now, as you're having your breakfast this morning, think about how much better those eggs would taste if they had just a little bit of truffle shaved over them.